Today's guest is Endi Frydman, a career transition and career management coach who has spent 2 decades helping people navigate one of the most challenging and often most personal parts of a working life, figuring out what comes next. Indi's career began in executive search, where she discovered that what she loved most wasn't simply finding the right candidate for a role. It was helping people understand their own potential and to make better career decisions. That eventually led her into executive coaching, career transition, leadership development, and the outplacement world. What I particularly like about Indy's approach is that she looks beyond the resume and beyond the job title. She brings together the practical realities of a job search with the mindset, energy, and self awareness that can make or break a transition. So, today, we're going to talk about what actually makes an effective job search in today's market and how to prepare, activate, and manage your energy along the way. Andy, welcome to People in Transition.
Good morning. Thank you, Bob. Lovely to be here.
Andy, as I suggested in the intro, I think we should look at the three themes or major areas of a search, that being preparation, activation, and energy management or mindset. Let's start with that preparation. Before someone starts applying for a job, what does an effective job search actually need to have in place so that they can maximize their time and, as I said, their effectiveness?
Bob, I think of job search as a campaign, and often people have a tendency, which is quite understandable, to jump right in, start applying actively for roles. And I think this is a mistake. It is so important to stop, take a breath, prepare well. So it's preparing for job search and then activation. I see it as two key stages because first impressions count, and it is very hard to change a first impression. So, when I talk about preparing for job search, there's a few key areas here, Bob. The first one is really stopping to reflect and analyze your career to date. The first one is that deeper self awareness and understanding. Really go back to basics. What are your career drivers? Why do you work? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Of course, the realities of work are that we need a financial income, we need to pay for our lifestyles. Let's take that as a given. What are those drivers that are going to make you passionate about your work, support you to get out of bed and support you to go into an organization and thrive personally, but deliver exceptional impact for those organizations? So, yes, the first one is, what is my purpose in the work that I do? The second is looking at what your values are. And those values will be your compass to determine the type of leader you want to work with, the type of organizational culture you want to represent and do great work in. But it's also thinking about the environments that bring out the best in you. What are your absolute strengths, which is different to capability? So, what do you do well? Your capabilities, competencies, skills. What do you really enjoy doing, being your strengths? What do you want to do more of? What do you want to do less of? And really thinking about your behavioral qualities. How do you do the work you do that delivers maximum impact? So they're some of the key areas that I call getting ready for job search. From this information, we think about it and analyze it and look at, okay, go through each of your past roles to date, have a look at what you've achieved in those past roles, and reverse engineer it. What is the role that I want to do next? Set your career goal. And we talk about an immediate career goal, and then what is the longer term career goal. I do not believe that careers are linear. Because you have been a senior executive does not mean that your next role might be a senior executive. You might want to step back. You might want to go back into more of an operational role because that's actually what you enjoy doing and what brings you energy. You might really want to start contracting. You might want to start your own business. You might be preparing for a transition, a key life transition that might be parenting, that might be transitioning to retirement. So think about that goal along with your purpose, your values, your drivers, your strengths, what you're good at. And then from there, build a career matrix. What are your non negotiables for your next job? What are the areas you're willing to negotiate? Non-negotiables, negotiables, nice to haves, nice not to haves. And from this point, Bob, I think it's important, only from this point, once you have data, is to then build your resume and your candidate branding.
Indy, what about that person that two things maybe is not as good in that reflective mode that you're talking about? And two, even if they reflected, they don't have a clue what it's telling them about themselves and what's next. What would you
Yeah.
suggest to that person?
I would suggest to go back to the basics. Think about every role they've had to date. If they're, graduates starting out, what have they enjoyed most at college? What have they enjoyed most, throughout their schooling years? And I would seek feedback from others. If you are a professional who has had a career to date, go and seek feedback from your colleagues, from your stakeholders, from people that have led you, from people that are close to you, from a friendship perspective, from your trusted network. Get feedback. If you still need a bit of data and evidence, go and find some free online tools. There are so many. I just did what's called a Spark chart. You can do VIA, which is a free online tool. If you Google free online career tools, you are going to get wonderful, wonderful results. Something as simple as, the big 5-factor personality styles. That gives you a base, Bob. You need some data and some evidence to work from to then build a compelling candidate brand so that you stand out and your job search is off to a good start. Because as I said, if you don't know yourself, you don't believe you have anything to offer, then you're not setting yourself up for success in your job search, Bob.
You talked earlier about that personal values, and that leads to that personal value proposition in today's marketplace. When a candidate is competing with so many other people, how can we keep that in mind? And I guess even more important, why should we keep that personal value proposition in mind?
Because it brings you energy, it brings you passion, it will come through in every single email you send, every single application you send. Be clear about your value, be clear about what you want to offer, and be clear about the things that are important to you. And you use all of that information in your applications. And if you don't know yourself, Bob, it is going to come through. That investment will pay off in spades and get people to help you in developing that.
And what are the biggest mistakes that you've seen people make during this preparation stage?
They don't do it. They don't prepare well. They don't build a really compelling market leading resume. They rush and they're not making the best first impression, which means they're not going to get cut through. And so often I'm a career coach, as you know, and often people call me and reach out, and they're reaching out at the point where they're not getting traction and they're feeling really down and disheartened. And I always take them back to these basics, Bob.
Are there any other parts to this preparation stage that you coach people to help them set themselves up for success?
So the preparation, all that heavy lifting that we spoke about in terms of holding up the mirror, which is not easy work, then comes together into a beautiful general resume, which is really, really important. That general resume is your first step. It is what you are bringing to life in every conversation you have. Hopefully, your resume will generate job opportunities, screening calls. So, what's really important is to do the heavy lifting in that candidate branding, that resume, building an optimized LinkedIn profile, a standout LinkedIn profile that maximizes the algorithm. And when the hard work is done there, you are not reinventing the wheel, you are bringing to life your resume, what's on your LinkedIn profile. You're articulating it and bringing it to life in every conversation. You are not reinventing for every conversation and starting from scratch. So that key messaging and always being aligned to that key messaging is important. Of course, Bob, this is preparing for job search. Once you start that job search activation, you're going to be refining that messaging. You're going to be refining that candidate branding, because the job market will tell you what the opportunities are and where you're stacking up against other candidates and in line with current job market opportunities.
So once I've gone through that preparation phase and I've done the reflection and I know where my energy and where my passion is at, then, as you suggest, we go into that activation stage. What does an effective job search activation phase actually look like in today's marketplace?
Again, it's being clear about what your goals are, and it's okay to have multiple goals, as in I'm looking for a permanent role, or I'm looking to offer my expertise in a contracting capacity or a project capacity. So it's being clear about your goals. Networking in this market is absolutely key, more than ever. You know, the figure's always been around that 80% of new roles are activated through networking, but in this market, I really want your listeners to know that they're going to have to apply for more roles than ever. And I'm not suggesting to apply for any role, but that you're going to need to apply for more roles than ever. And you're going to need to really lean in to your network more. So, as part of that preparation stage, I encourage my participants to build their networking strategy. And what that looks like is literally opening up a spreadsheet, brain dumping everyone they've worked with, everyone in their network that might help them. It might be a friend who has been successful. It might be your previous employers. It might be colleagues that have moved on to different organizations. Build your list. Start big, you'll then refine. Networking can be overwhelming for people. It is overwhelming to initially think about networking as, okay, I've got to go and sell myself. But think about what your key messaging is. And really importantly, remember that networking is just a conversation. It is just a conversation with two humans. Prepare for your networking conversation. Know what you would like to get out of that networking conversation. What do you want to gain? What do you want to give to that individual? And when I think about networking, I like to think of it as a formula. My formula is AIR, AIR. Seek advice, seek counsel. When you seek advice and seek counsel, you get a job. When you ask for a job, you get advice. So the first one is seek their advice. The second one is understand from their perspective what's going on in the market. Seek insights. And thirdly, the R is recommendations or referrals. Is there anyone in your network that you would recommend that I reach out to? And as part of that, I think it's really important because we're asking them for something there in terms of introducing me to someone. Make it really simple for them, because otherwise they'll say yes in that conversation and nothing will eventuate. And what I mean by that is send them an email summarizing, a very short email. Bob, thank you so much for agreeing to introduce me to Amanda. She sounds terrific. I've prepared a short introductory summary for you to make it easy for you to forward it to Amanda. You don't want to give them a job and make it too hard for them.
Is that how you're suggesting, or you coach someone who, let's say, is an introvert or just isn't good at that networking? Is that a way to build that muscle up some?
Certainly is. And I would challenge my participants who say, I'm not good at networking. It's the same as I'm not good at interviewing. And everyone has worked with 5, 10 people. They might have 2 people that they trust. Start there with your warmest contacts. Again, it is a conversation and people want to help. Everyone has been in career transition. Everyone is going to want to help you, but start with your warmest contacts, and that will help you to build your networking muscle, and your messaging will continue to be refined and to be elevated. And the more you practice, the better you're going to get at it. Before any networking conversation or, catch up with someone in your network, prepare for it. Be really clear, be really intentional. What would I like to get out of this conversation? And what do I have to give in this conversation? It is a muscle. And for those introverts, it's a one-on-one, human to human conversation.
If I have 20 hours to devote this week to my job search, how do you coach your clients to spend that 20 hours networking, resumes, filling out job applications?
Yeah. It's a beautiful figure, 20 hours, Bob. I don't know where you plucked that from, but that is my figure. So if you think about a 40-hour job week, for example, let's say someone was working full-time permanently, let's call it 40 hours a week, probably more. 20 hours is a great number when you are actively in job search mode. The additional 20 hours, I really want to encourage participants to use this time not working. It is a moment in time, it is a gift. What are those personal goals that you're working on? Let's give you 10 years back in your life. Let's rejuvenate your personal relationship, your health and well-being. Get those projects around the house done. That is all exceptional investment of your time. Those 20 hours of job search, what would I encourage you to do? I'd encourage you to spend that time, and it depends what stage you are in your job search. If you are actively interviewing, those 20 hours are spent on preparation for those interviews. If you are at the earlier stages of your career, yes, it's getting your resume strong. It's looking at applications, really thinking about those applications, making those meaningful. How should I tailor my resume to align to this ad, to this job description? What should I write in my cover letter that is not in my resume? Why am I interested in this role? What is going to make me stand out? Yes, networking, having conversations. And it's really funny, Bob, when I speak with executives, because I mainly coach executives, but this applies to any seniority level or any type of job. It is often those networking conversations that people have set up that they really don't want to go to, that they're forcing themselves to, that end up being the most fruitful.
If you're coaching one of your clients and they are doing well, sending out applications and doing well in their networking, and they're having conversations,
Yep,
but nothing seems to be happening. They don't seem to be getting any traction.
yep.
So, kind of a two-part question to this. How do you unpack that, where the problem might be, and when do you do that unpacking so that you make a change in your strategy?
Yeah. Are you talking about candidates that are not getting to interview, or are you talking about candidates who are not successfully progressing to job offer?
Kind of both, I guess.
Yeah. Go back to basics, your networking conversations. Are you making them impactful? If it's someone you know well, do you start with your value proposition, Bob? As you know, I've got 2 decades of experience in career management and I'm so passionate about it. If it's someone that you know well in your networking, go back to your value proposition. You cannot assume that they know what you've been doing, what your passions are, what your future direction is, how they can help you. If we're talking about job applications in a really non-judgmental, self-compassionate way, go back to those applications. Is my resume strong? Yes, people spend, what is it, 8, 10, 12 seconds on a resume. Ensure you have a high impact front page. Ensure that your resume is easy to read, that all the information's there. People are not going to go searching for a resume. Go, searching for information in your resume. Go back to the way you've been interviewing. Really analyze the questions. Interview preparation for me is number one, absolutely number one. Look at the job description or the ad, whatever you have. There are a few job search hygiene factors that I talk to participants about. One is when you start applying for roles, screen your calls. Often candidates have this quite rightly feeling that they've got to be the first to apply, they've got to accept the phone call. But if you're in the supermarket or you have your kids in the back seat of the car, it is not the right time to be answering that call. If you accidentally answer it, it's Bob, I really want to have this conversation, but I'm about to go into a meeting or I'm not in the right environment. Can I call you back? Get back to your desk. Have your information in front of you. Ensure that you're making a strong first impression. Take control of your job search. A job is advertised, it's going to be advertised for a couple of days. Spend time preparing a properly tailored application so that you do get through those AI application tracking systems so that you do make a first impression. Be clear in your networking about how someone can help, what you're looking for. If you're too vague, you get put in the too hard basket. So that goes back to all of the preparation before job search or refinement during. And when it comes to interview practice, Bob, there's a formula that I love. My formula for interview preparation is obviously the first one is be really strong in articulating or answering that question, tell me about yourself. And again, that goes back to the resume, not reinventing the wheel. It's bringing to life your professional profile in your resume. For interview preparations, land that first question. You will have your interviewer leaning in. Think about all of the capabilities, competencies, key skills you have listed on the front page of your resume with the definition of what those skills mean to you, how you bring those skills to life. And the formula that I love, look at that list of capabilities, build what I call car stories to bring those capabilities to life. Prepare before you even have your first interview or first networking conversations. Build a bank of stories. The explanation for CAR is C is for context. This is what was going on in the business at the time. I was employed to turn around, fix, build, unite, whatever was going on in the business at that time. What was your mandate? So the context, the action. This is what I did. Of course, if you're a leader, you have a team around you, but use the I. I built a team. I mobilized a team. I invested in that team to build the capability we needed to deliver on that strategy. The action is the I. The R for car, the first R is result. What did you achieve? And Bob, I'd love to add an extra letter into this CAR formula, which is impact. The result's important, Bob, but what did that result mean in terms of impact? I developed a process that was then impacted across the country in every team, or that acquisition led to us accessing an additional, X amount of million revenue, which then drove A, B, C. So result and then impact. And the final R that I love in CAR, which demonstrates a growth mindset, is, and you don't add it if you don't have it, but reflection. What did you learn What was the feedback you received? What do you now do differently? That interview preparation is key. Say, initially you might type out your answers, and you can build car stories for each of your capabilities and for each of your role achievements. And I love at least two car stories for each of your capabilities, because in an interview context, it might be appropriate to use the car story you develop for stakeholder engagement, for example, for a question around driving change or what have you. So you need at least two stories for each capability so that you can, in the moment, choose the most appropriate story. So write your stories out, Bob, say them out loud. It is very different.
We've talked about that 20 hours of the job search time. It can be an emotional roller coaster, ups and downs and
Yeah,
silence and uncertainty. How do you coach people to help deal with that?
yeah. This is probably one of the most important areas of job search. It is thinking about that sphere of control, Bob. The nucleus is, what do I have full control over? Well, you have full control over how you prepare your resume, your application, how you show up in that interview, the energy you bring, making sure that you're there early and you're presenting the best version of yourself. You have control over aspects of job search. You can influence, which is that middle sphere. What can you influence? Okay, I know that, someone that I've worked with is at that organization now. Can they be my advocate? What can I learn from that individual about that organization? I've sent a job application in to X organization. What can I do? Do I just email that application in, send it off in LinkedIn or whatever your job board is, and hope that someone's going to call me? Or do I really map out that organisation and individually approach those that I think are going to be influential, or perhaps even the line manager and the hiring manager, or it might be the head of talent, or it might be the CEO, depending on the role you're applying for. And then that outer rim, Bob, is that area that we have no control and no influence over. And when I speak about energy management, and how you can best invest your energy to get maximum return in your job search. Please don't invest in that outer sphere where you have no control and no energy. For example, you have gone to interview, you have done the best interview you can, you've given it your absolute best. After that interview, go home or sit in your car and write down all of the interview questions that were asked while it's all fresh, while you've still got the adrenaline rushing. Think about what you answered well. Think about what you're going to enhance in your next interview. And then surrender. If there is anything you can influence, like sending that thank you email and going back to those that advocated for you. Thanks so much, Bob. I interviewed. Gee, I really love them. They are so my people. The culture sounds amazing. Go back and influence as much as you can, and then surrender to the rest and move on. Where we invest our energy absolutely counts. Don't spend it worrying. Don't spend it thinking about all the applications you've sent and how many rejections you've received. Your mindset in job search is everything. Observe the way you're talking to yourself, and it is a habit that is often formed earlier in your life. And I often ask the people I'm coaching, would you speak to your best friend, your employer, your employee, your mum or sister or daughter? Would you speak to them the way you're speaking to yourself? And the answer is absolutely no. And the good news is we can observe the way we're talking to ourselves, we can reframe it, and we can change our habits. Because if you do not believe in yourself and you are not confident in your ability, well, why should an employer hire you? And the reality is, you have to be really clear about what you bring, your value proposition, and believe in yourself, because it will come through if you don't.
And as we wrap this up, If you could give our listeners one piece of advice to help them conduct their job search successful, what would that one thing be?
You're challenging me. If I have to choose one thing, it's got to be preparation, and preparation encompasses every step of your job search campaign. Prepare and be confident, not arrogant, be confident in what you have to offer and watch your mindset, be positive and represent yourself in the best way possible.
I hope today's conversation fired you up and gave you the push to take bold steps in your own career journey. You don't have to face change alone. Together, we can turn uncertainty into momentum and momentum into results. This is your time, as Endi said, to lean in, get clear on what you want, and go after it with confidence. Let's start building that future you've been dreaming about. Your next chapter is waiting for you. Let's make it happen.